Kai ki e.
Engari, tēnā tātou e mihi atu nei, ko tae mai, ko hara mai te awhi tēnei kaupapa wā tātou, te hauora o te tangata, hauora o te whānau, te hapu me te iwi. Me tūtahi tuku atu nā mihi kia rātou e mate i tēnei wā, ara ko tā wira tētahi. Tēnā no kai roto o te rongo whakātu ko mau paretene, tōku mōhio, tēnā pē etahi atu, haere koutou, ki te wāhi ngaro. Tēnā tātou anō, nā hunga ora. Kei te mihi tonu kia tātou ko tai mai a kanohi. Kore e tinana, but a kanohi. So kei te mihi kia tātou katoa. Well, unless anyone's got any pressing business, shall we crack on into this and get it moving? Pai tērā? Oh, there was one thing, Tōmai, you have to come clean about what your new job is. Josh was asking. I think you're on mute if you're there. Never mind. Any apologies? Nothing, eh? We've got no apologies. If anyone has any further interest to declare, you can just email those through to Helena, please.
Yep, I got Te Aturangi's this morning, so I've added that to the interests list.
Beautiful. And if you have any conflicts of interest, anyone with the agenda, as I say, there's no decision item, so I think we're fairly well clear. So, te hui o mua, our previous minutes. Any matters arising or corrections for those previous minutes? Aye, Ariana, aye.
Can I just update? Attendance was myself in place of Nikiho.
Oh, okay. Ka pai, Scott.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Are we doing any other matters arising or corrections from anybody? Ka pai, all right. We'll take those previous minutes as they sit. Matters arising. There are no action items. Are those were there, Helena?
No, there weren't.
All right. There was, in terms of action items, I just wanted to say I thought that first one of mine was it had been closed off at the last week.
Yeah, I think they were all closed off.
All right. We'll take that.
Year.
Kapai, we'll wipe those off, please. Now, I'm on 4.1. Ngā tuhinga mai. So correspondence, we have nil. And that takes us to ko ngā take rongo. And on 5.1 is a C report, a verbal report from Jim, if we could, please. Thank you, Jim.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you. Sorry for not having a written report this month. Just ran out of time, unfortunately. Yeah. Been that kind of month, and I just got maybe the major thing I just wanted to update you was around the COVID situation and response, and I've just got a few slides here to do that for you. And then just talk about a few other items that that will hopefully be of interest to you. So hopefully you can see that presentation there up on the screen. Apologies for those of you that have just seen this at Hiwa Tarangi. Just only a few slides here. Our current case report here for you to see. Just hasten to add that that's got a log scale on the left-hand side of that, so it makes it look a lot flatter than it actually is. So we had a very sharp rise, and you'll see that in another slide coming up shortly around what that looks like. Today there are 380, I think, cases in Tairāwhiti. There's always a bump up on a Monday morning when people make sure that they are getting themselves tested.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt
I
you,
know. I
Jim.
thought about
I don't know if anyone else is, but my screen is blank.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
I
it's got you started screen sharing is what it's saying, but there's nothing on it.
was waiting for
I'll try again.
Contact tracing.
Who's having a party?
Contact tracing, and I just finished contact tracing.
Hi.
Kapai.
I'll just have another go here. Is that screen sharing now?
Yes, there it is.
Oh, lovely. Okay. So yeah, just quick recap. So that's the current view of around cases in the district. The today's cases are around about the 380 mark again. So that would be around about one of these points here, around here somewhere. Shouldn't take too much different to our 7-day moving average there, which is starting to show that we are at the peak or slightly past the peak, and the actual numbers of cases on the other graph will show that we're past the peak. For a while there, that black line there is cases doubling every 4 days, and so we were actually well above that line for a period of time, but now right off that line, so we're definitely at the peak where we're at. The other lines on that graph there, this is the line percentage of Maori, and as we've seen all through this pandemic, given the age distribution, which I'll show shortly, we've been around about that 60% mark for reported cases. Around just under, slightly under 50% of those reported cases are identifying themselves as males. This line here is the rate of people who are unvaxxed. So between 20 to 30% of the people reporting unvaccinated. So that means that they've had no doses or one dose of vaccine, and quite a striking feature there. So that's probably around about 3 to 4 times higher than the general population of people who are unvaccinated. And then this other one here around people aged over the age of 50, only around about the 20% mark, although it has climbed a little bit in the last period of time higher. When you look at that,
Sorry, Jim, would you mind if I went back to that, please?
Yep.
I just want to, and I probably know the answer to this, but the unvaxxed, the male line, percentage of male, is that all male in Tairāwhiti, not specifically Māori?
It's all males, yes.
And is there do we understand of the percentage of unvaxxed, how many of those are Māori?
I don't have that number offhand, but we do know that, for instance, that the total population are around about 95% had at least one dose, and over about 92 or 93% have had 2 doses, whereas Māori, only about 88% of the population have had 2 doses. So yeah, there'll be a higher proportion of those, there's a higher proportion of the unvaccinated population who are Māori. So that'll be reflected in that line as well.
Yeah. I think, and I had some time to think about it from our last presentation. It's just that, once all the QR coding goes, the vaccine passes go, the mandates go, I just wondered in our crystal ball what that will mean for our Māori population in terms of getting through all of the COVID, potentially getting COVID. It's just a thought that crossed my mind, reflecting on how all of the stuff that went on in the previous about a year ago, talking about the Māori response to vaccinations and COVID. I'm just thinking about now post all of that, what are the trends looking like for Māori? So, and I don't expect you to answer that question.
No, I mean, just a couple of thoughts off the top of my head. I mean, the issue has always been with this virus is that it is a relatively highly transmissible virus. We've got a version of it, a variant of it at present circulating in our community that is the most transmissible that it has been. It's gone through several variations. It's now up to Omicron in terms of the Greek alphabet. So it's gone through different versions of itself. And it has developed itself into be much more ability to be up in people's noses and spread in that way out to people. Whereas before, in the early days, it was down in people's lungs, and it had much more significant effects on people. Now it tends to be up more in their noses, but can get into people's lungs as well. So when you've got something like that, you do need to try and protect as many people as possible through two methods. One is to stop people being able to give the virus a free ride, as in that it means putting masks on and not congregating in large numbers if you can avoid it. So that's sort of around the vaccine passes and the public health measures. And the other one is to vaccinate people against the effects of the virus. So you may not necessarily, we can't prevent people getting it, but we can make sure that if they do get it, that the effect if they have it is minimized as possible. So that's, so for Maori, the density of living and association is probably higher than the general population, so more chances for transmission. So source control, mask wearing, etc., is really, really important. And the other thing is currently the rate of vaccination for Maori is a little bit lower than the total population or other parts of the population. So more chance of it spreading and affecting particularly those vulnerable people, although Pakeke are highly vaccinated in our population. So
I just think when we're thinking long Omicron, that for Māori it's going to be longer is probably my point out of all of this. So we can expect a peak to occur shortly, but the peak for Māori might drag out a bit further, given the numbers and the percentages.
Yes, it will continue to circulate within the population for months and months to come. So the national forecast is that there will be at least probably still around 5,000 new cases a day for months to come, as it seeks out and finds those people who aren't already immune or who are unvaccinated and moves on. So those people who haven't had the virus yet, can expect to most likely get it in future months. But if you're vaccinated, so it's still not too late to get vaccinated, fully vaccinated.
Just a question on the vaccinations, Jim. How long do the booster vaccinations last for?
I think the current thinking is around about the 3 to 4 months mark, when you've got maximum protection, and then it starts to decline after that. Yeah, hence the reason for having boosters.
Yeah, so they have talked about a second booster. Has that progressed any further?
I know that the Ministry of Health are considering whether a second booster would be useful, and but that probably would be targeted to particular parts of the population, not general. I don't know where that thought is at yet or what's been considered.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just the age profile. So again, just emphasizing that down this end, it's skewed towards this side of the age profile. So hence, that's why we've got that higher proportion of Maori who have tested positive in Tairāwhiti. So that's just a sheer fact of life for Tairāwhiti, that at this age group here, we've got around about 70% of the population here are Maori. And lowering out as you get down to the centre. So if you're going to have the virus circulating in this group, you're going to have a high proportion of Māori, and it circulates in this age group more than this age group for two reasons. One is that this age group is way more vaccinated than this age group here, and this age group of people here are out and about, living their lives, and maybe not so attentive to those measures I talked about before, and of wearing masks and associating when you can be upfront with people and pass the virus on. That's just looking at the same graph, but identifying it down by actual ages. This one has got the total numbers of positive cases that we've had up until the 17th of March, and you'll see slightly more Maori as opposed to other or Pasifika, and just to note that that's disproportionate for the Pasifika population in Tairāwhiti. This one here just showing the way in which the outbreak has developed over time. These are all 2-week periods. This is a slightly shorter period here, which shows that in that those first cases starting to appear back on the 28th of January from the current outbreak, there was a much higher proportion at that time for Maori. So just really where the virus started to take off in the community, and then families whānau at that point, and then in the second bar there started to affect a number of our Pasifika families in Tairāwhiti. So change the dynamic there, but now then most considerably and steadily over this later period of time has had that same dynamic of being proportionately higher in the Maori population. Then in terms of cases by suburb in Tairāwhiti, you can see that consistent with that other graph, that you've got those suburbs and areas with higher proportions of Maori where the highest numbers of cases are, and then but still spread across the whole rohe, but much smaller communities outside of the city area, but proportionately lower numbers of people there, but probably less in the communities at this point and spreading out from the centre. But we're also mindful that for some communities there may not be the same rates of testing and reporting as in other communities. Looking at what the modelling looks like, so you can see that this for us here, we're well above that modelling that was done earlier or late last year, early this year, around modelling. This is just one form of modelling of that. I believe that this modelling here was not really done with rats in mind, so rats have given us much more penetration in the community around what is actually happening with people, and people still dependent on people testing themselves and then reporting. So even this may be underestimating the numbers of people testing positive each day out there, and just hasten that we've got around about 380. So we've got another little spike here up here today, but I'm very confident that will drop away again tomorrow. These graphs are bell curves and are showing an orderly rise and an orderly decline, but we've seen in this graph a really sharp rise and then holding at a peak, much more of a peak here, and then slowly starting to drop away. And we do expect that this will not come down to zero for a very long period of time. And then this is what the national picture looks like. So it's a little hard to see the bell curve in there, but it's pretty much on target, on track. So well done, modellers, who are getting it right from a national point of view. The variation DHB by DHB, but also even in this showing that already that there's that same sort of high peak and then a lopsided bell curve in terms of that. And then the really good news for us, not so good for those people who have been hospitalised with COVID-19, but we are on a track of a low trajectory for the numbers of people actually hospitalised. So that's good news, as I say, for those for whānau, and less likely to be less likely than predictions maybe for being hospitalised, and good that we haven't had the same pressure as much as could be on the hospital system in relationship to that. And do remember that those are the people who've actually wound up in hospital. We've got about 7,000 to 8,000 people in Tairāwhiti currently positive with the virus, and so most of those, the vast majority of those people, are being supported within their own homes with welfare support and with their general practitioners providing the support if they need it over that time. But most people are not needing that formal health support. And finally, just a slide on vaccination rates. So you can see there that for Maori, just still edging up towards that 90% second dose. We've got about 600 people left to be able to get to that point, and comparatively high rates of boosting going on. And look at our elderly people; they are champions at responding to a public health emergency. The wisdom of the old is replicated again there, just for getting 5 to 11-year-olds, I think this one here was, I think, yesterday's, but we're getting much closer to the 50% mark for young Maori vaccinated now, and that's a really good result compared to other parts of the country. And our booster rate is looking good for Maori as well. Okay, and then just other issues in relationship to this is that we have got a lot of rapid antigen testing going on around our district, as those results are showing, and we've got vast quantities of rapid antigen tests available. We've just given away, from my morning conversation, just given away another pallet and a half to Ranganui-a-Kiwa for distribution. So I'm confident that we're able to get those out to people. Just really pleased with the networks that have gone on within iwi, hapu and hapori to make sure that the tests are out there and people know how to use them and are able to register the result. It is really useful when people do register the result, because that then gives that visibility to the system to know that there's people out there who've tested, and then we can get from that their contact details and make sure that they're okay. And they can also register when they register online, you can fill out whether you're going to need support or not. And so we know that some people don't want to do things like that, so we do have to have other mechanisms to be able to find people so that they can be supported. Shouldn't miss out just because you don't want to fill out an online form. And just in terms of health services, we know that they're all under pressure at present with the numbers of staff that are off sick, and other businesses within the city and iwi services as well, very much under pressure, and are needing others to help lean in and give them support at this time. We've taken on, as a DHB, we've taken on another 30 people to be able to support our teams. We are short on staff, clinical staff, so we've taken on people to be able to provide backup support to those people. We're hoping or expecting that those people will get a boost out of working for us. They're permanent employees, so we can get a boost out of working for us, and we're looking to see how we may be able to interest them in long-term careers within health as well, and work with Te Pukenga to get some more local training available for them, for those that would choose to move on into health careers. That's my update.
Okay, so how's everyone? It's a lot to take in, I know, but any initial thoughts from everybody or anybody? All right.
Just a question regarding the nature of our families and the overcrowding that we have in some of our homes, and wanted to acknowledge the support for some of those families with the cabins down at Te Kuria Tuatai and other supported isolation at the hospital and the like, and wondered what the future looks like with that level of support, considering large number of our community have yet to either catch COVID and some think that when they've recovered, that they are now immune to it. So the communication around that and some not following some of the guidelines now that they've recovered from COVID. Just some thoughts around that, please.
Yes, the pandemic has really highlighted the terrible state of housing for our whānau here in Tairāwhiti. And I know a lot of the pressures that we've had around supported isolation and quarantine have often been around the pre-existing problems around crowding and lack of accommodation for people in our communities, not so much necessarily the fact that someone in that household is now tested positive. So yeah, our opportunities for that are being very much under pressure, and I know that already the thoughts are turning around how we can then utilise some of the options like the cabins at Te Kuria Tuatai as longer term housing support options for people. We are aware that there is quite a large chunk of housing just about to be completed in Tairāwhiti, particularly in Te Ranganui-a-Kiwa, to provide more housing available. So that government drive to get more houses built is actually now starting to come online. It's been delayed because of the various lockdowns and pandemic effects, but those houses are now coming on stream. They're not thousands of houses. We need, we need hundreds of houses. So a chunk of those are coming along at the same time. So yeah, not miracle cures around this problem. We just need to have the grunt work to get more houses built, more accommodation built for our population. In terms of people now, having had the virus and being immune, the two things about that. One is the immunity from having the virus is less than if you've been vaccinated and boosted, gives you better protection than actually having the virus. So you need to be careful about that. And of course, people can get the virus again, so they're not immune for the rest of their lives. So they need to remember that as well. But there's definitely a period of time where we're counting those people as being immune for a period of time. They need to remember too that that while they are immune, many of those other people around them are not, or are still vulnerable and are at risk of contracting the virus. So yeah, particularly Pākeke, and so still need to be careful, especially when they're traveling around.
I think there's still a lot of misunderstanding about the changes in rules as well. So we're seeing people who are whose whānau are actually testing positive a couple of weeks after they've come out of an isolation state. So they're not sure what they should be doing, whether they are allowed to, whether they should be re-isolating. So communication around that could be quite good.
Yeah.
Yes. Ka pai koe Raniera. E tahi anō nā pātai?
Yeah.
Ka pai Lois?
Yeah. No, Jim, I was wondering, is the booster included in the flu injection for this winter?
No, it isn't, Lois, but there is an opportunity for people to be boosted at the same time as having their flu vaccination this winter. So that is definitely going to be made available, and it's definitely going to be okay to be able to do that, to have your flu vaccination and your booster at the same time.
Awesome.
Cool.
That obviously leads on to the next question about immunisations, Jim, whether or not we can get on top of those as well at the same time.
A lot of work around that, and Ariana might have a comment about that as well, but I'll start off. We have got behind in childhood vaccinations.
Yeah.
And that is because whānau have been careful about bringing their children out at this time, especially going to general practices to get vaccinated. So we are fortunate that at present, there's a really good program going on between Tairāwhiti Health and the DHB's Outreach Immunisation Service to be able to bring vaccinations to whānau in their own homes, which is enabling whānau to take advantage of vaccination and keep their children protected, because nobody would have told those childhood illnesses that there's a cousin of yours called Omicron that's having a field day at present. So just, you guys just go away and leave it to Omicron to have the fun. They want to join in as well. So we are concerned that just as happened in Samoa a number of years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago now, that there may be an outbreak of measles in this country. And in fact, we know that the outbreak in Samoa was seeded from Aotearoa. So we are very mindful about getting back on track, and it's good that we've been able to release our wild child tamariki ora nurses from the DHB's ones, and now increasingly within our iwi providers to get back to vaccinating the young ones. And then also there is I think it's 18 to 30 year olds, Ariana, who we've got to resurrect that campaign about getting them vaccinated against measles, because there was a patch of time there when there was a low uptake rate of vaccination. So many of those younger people within our society are who are parents now are unvaccinated and are likely to spread that measles to their young. And so influenza vaccination is supposed to start in April, so only about a week or so away. And we are knowing that with the border opening now, that there will be coming, particularly from the Northern Hemisphere, to bring the latest versions of influenza from the Northern Hemisphere to us here in Aotearoa. Yep. So we're going to need to be a jump ahead of that as well. So it's full on for vaccination for the next few months.
If, I know we've sort of indicated this before, Jim, but you know how the PR Ministry of Health government machine hard out went around Omicron and Delta. I wonder whether or not it's worth pushing them to keep that momentum up with ordinary IMS and vaccinations, and see what the appetite is for them to have a campaign to continue immunisations on the back of vaccinations for Omicron and boosters and stuff, just keep capturing that momentum that they've had with all of this Omicron stuff.
Definitely will be. You can be sure of that.
Good, good. Oh, that's nice. Kapai. Anyone else got a pate for Jim? No, going, gone.
Hey, sorry, no.
Oh, Whiti, kapai.
I haven't got a pate, but I don't have a pate, but I've got a thank you. My father ended up in hospital with COVID. He's got a low immune system. The two of him and a grower, it was 77. My dad was released in a better position to look after himself, and unfortunately the grower that was with him at the same time passed.
Oh.
So Tairāwhiti te aroha ki tōna whānau me te whānau pani, but acknowledging the work that our kaimahi did at the hospital. Really hard struggle for us not being able to do anything to help Dad, like nothing. I was dropping papers off at the door, but that's about it. So thanking our kaimahi at our hospital.
Kia ora Whiti.
Kia ora Whiti.
Aroha nui kia koutou, Whiti. It's so sad. All right. Can we move on? I'd quite like to get to Peter's report if we could. Because that's the regional approach. You'll see a lot of the quarter on theirs around all the DHBs. I saw Taranaki was missing out of those ones though, Peter. But just saying, This could be the style of reporting on the regional concepts that are coming in with the reforms process. So it's good for us to see the report Peter's got in that context. So kei a koe, Peter, koa?
Oh, well, I'll take my report as being read, Mr. Chair.
Now, was it just me, or could no one else open up those little things? Did I do something wrong? I couldn't open up the pictures.
Oh, probably embedded in there, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay.
It was more around seeing those graphs and what was happening, and particularly from an equity point of view.
Right.
And how Hauora Tairāwhiti was progressing down that pathway.
So, me nā tuku nā kōrero ki etahi o tātou, he pātai, he kōrero rānei.
So Taranaki is not part of, if you're referring to the Te Manawataki cancer.
Yeah, they're separate.
They're separate from us
in
relation to that. So while those graphs were showing that Te Manawataki didn't meet the 90% target, it was impacted by Waikato's result. All others were meeting target and equity positive. And Tairāwhiti is the only DHB that achieved the 15% registration volumes. And there are delays due to, I think, as that report says, clinical reasons, capacity reasons across the tumour streams. And then with a 31-day treatment, we achieved 88%, and Māori did better compared to non-Māori. So it's a positive change that's happening in one service, but we've got some sort of just with our cancer services here, we've got Te Manawataki and Health Share down tomorrow to meet various parts of the service and to look at how we can, I suppose, restructure the service.
Right. Okay, kia koe whiti, tukuna tō ringa.
Just to see where we're at with the transition to the new partnership boards, and when this group will be made, I suppose.
That's better.
Released from our duties. Yeah, so there's that. So good, good to see that in place. We really haven't had an update from Toitū on the membership and whether or not the local iwi have those conversations or not, or is it just going to be default to Toitū? That's the other part of it. And there was one stage where there was a pilot project put to our board as an opportunity of that new entity. Did that land, and what is it?
The first part of your questions, we haven't received any information regarding the transition from Te Waiora Nukutaimemeha to an iwi Māori Partnership Board. And I talked to Kim just last week about that. She hasn't received any information either. They've kept it pretty well close. My feeling is, I'm not sure they've got a position at this stage, but we'll keep prompting them for a bit of a briefing on what and where, how they're going, because sorry, we just don't have any, they haven't come back with any information whatsoever. The second part of your question, was that to do with the localities, Whiti? So I guess that's in Ariana and Jim's court. I think Nicola was leading that process around that prototype for localities, Jim or Ariana?
No, so that was another Toy2 led piece of work. And so yes, Joe Maraki was supplied by us to help to formulate a response about that.
She was writing it, wasn't she?
Sorry?
She was the writer?
Yes, so she was the
Yeah,
writer.
the
She
team.
worked with the Toy2 team, and they did put a submission in around that probably about a month ago now, I think would have been, Ariana, and we understand that that was well received. Well, certainly on the day that was well received, I was there as part of that submission process around that, and that I haven't heard too much detail about since that time, but I know that the Māori Health Authority are and Health New Zealand are considering all of those locality proposals at present, and should get some announcements on that reasonably soon, I think, about whether that was successful. And then they'll be able to provide the further details on it. It was, in summary, that proposal was particularly around the infrastructure, around how we can change and further orientate the health services in Tairāwhiti to eliminating inequity and health outcomes for Māori. So that was the main thrust of that, and the mechanics of doing that was the main thrust of the proposal that was put in.
Is it possible to receive that submission that went in, Jim? Is there any reason, that, because I think that's the point of Whiti's question, is can we view the submission, see what it is?
We can certainly approach Toy2 to see if they are happy for that to be shared.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Because we were all ecstatic when we got the invitation to put in a prototype. So
yeah,
it'd be nice to follow through.
Yeah.
Ka pai tēnā, Whiti.
Ka pai, thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions on that? The result of Peter's?
It's been a direct relationship, Mr. Chair, between the transition unit and Toy2. I haven't been involved with that in any way. We just get fed, the Hauora Māori managers just recently have been fed updates, but that's after the event.
Yeah.
That's what I provided. I think since then, since I wrote this report, we know that there's 13 areas and the plans went in, but we don't have access to that.
All right. Yeah, they've kept it pretty close to their chest, I have to say.
Well, I think the other thing that you'll see now too is that with the fact that the interim Māori Health Authority is now stood up and their chief executive is in place, that the transition will be away from the transition unit. In fact, it's already happening to interim Māori Health Authority and interim Health New Zealand. So they are going to are already taking a much stronger lead in these matters now. The transition unit is transitioning out.
They'll be going hell for leather, I would suggest.
Yep.
No, ka pai tēnā. Any other pātai for Peter on his reports?
Hi. Thank you for your report, Pete. Just noting on the second page under He Rangahau, it's great to see in terms of the research paper, disadvantaged for priority populations. It's been interesting to see that has been the common theme throughout the country, and in a way it's been quite uplifting to know that that's not the case here in Tairāwhiti, meaning that in actual fact our over 65 population here in Tairāwhiti are the most vaccinated in terms of COVID vaccination, and if anything they're the most well vaccinated.
Yes.
That when we look at the graphs in terms of COVID and COVID cases, our over 65s are the most underrepresented in that. So just acknowledging that.
Yeah, and the research was carried out in 2020-21, so it's only just come out recently. It's just a matter of including that. But as you highlight, What's been happening here has been great, excellent.
No, we certainly our pakeke are leading, not only here but around the country, I suggest. Fantastic, just fantastic leadership. All right, he pātai anō, he kōrero anō wā tātou. All right. All right, ka pai, Peter. Thank you very much for your paper, Peter. Just really good to see Tairāwhiti leading in our spaces. Just want to say that. All right, if I can move us down to the info items, there are none. There are no decision items, and we're really at 8.1, he kaupapa whānui, whether anyone has any general business items they wanted to bring to the table. If not, can we close this part of our hui? We'll go off live and we will go in committee and complete those tasks there. So I know there's going to be a number of whānau hapu and iwi that are on our live feed. So in just to say ngā mihi nui kia koutou, te whakarongo mai ki tēnei o tātou, tēnei hui a koutou. So thank you very much.